West Coast-Jurong West GRC has a PAP team anchored by National Development Minister Desmond Lee, going against a Progress Singapore Party team led by former PAP stalwart Tan Chen Bock and two of the party's leaders, Leong Man Wai and Hazel Phua. In 2020 GE, this GRC was previously West Coast GRC, and PAP only barely won with 51.68% of the vote. This is going to be Tan's last election due to his age, currently at 85, so that could be a concern, but people are going to remember the Iswaran case. Interestingly, r/Singapore Raw has a rather popular thread calling for voters to vote Sean Huang out. Aside from poor estate management, one Redditor alleged that Sean Huang discussed a private issue at a Meet the People session in public, and Huang's group of volunteers laughed at the Redditor's issue. Other Redditors say that Huang feels really fake, with cleanliness being an issue since Taman left. A Facebook post previously alleged that Huang threw lunch boxes at another military volunteer, but this was later withdrawn by the original poster, who said she may have overreacted and was too harsh in her assessment of Huang. Huang also addressed his surname change, clarifying that he is Singapore Chinese and a citizen by birth, and he had been using the surname Huang since primary school. Lunch-slinging drama aside, we changed channels to medical drama in Bukit Panjang SMC, where previously PAP's Liang Eng Hua narrowly won the election with 53.7% against Singapore Democratic Party's Paul Tambia. Liang was previously diagnosed with early-stage nose cancer, and Redditors who wished him well noted that he is a good MP, who wasn't into politicking and that he was hardworking. It would seem that this SMC has two good choices because Paul Tambia is a very accomplished doctor and professor of infectious diseases, with Reddit voting him as their favourite choice of minister if opposition politicians could be appointed. Next, Sengkang GRC is also interesting because it tells us about the staying power of the Workers' Party. People will remember the debate performances by James, but WP also had the Raisa Khan lie. Even in their win, they only got 52.12%, a very narrow win, and that's against unpopular PAP candidates. The votes should have reflected the PMD ban, which was attributed to then Senior Minister of State for Transport, Lam Pin Min. Before Sengkang West SMC was absorbed into Sengkang GRC, Lam was actually quite popular. Of course, Sengkang's result may also be because of Ng Chee Meng, now going against Workers' Party's Andre Low in the new Jalan Kayu SMC. Now, this is the constituency I am most interested in because of the Income-Allianz deal blocked by the government. This is a deal that Ng Chee Meng endorsed, and I'll let the other candidate Andre explain with some articles behind.
In July last year, we remember, right? A deal was announced to sell our homegrown NTUC Income to a German company. What we didn't know at the time was there was a plan to return $1.85 billion to shareholders within 3 years, and shareholders include Allianz itself. Despite public assurances that Income's social mission would be maintained and protected, there was little that I could see in the offer in the form of concrete, legally binding safeguards to protect this very mission. Remember, Income was built on the backs of Singaporeans like you and me. It was meant to serve a social mission to our communities, to provide affordable insurance to those who could not get it elsewhere. A few years ago, Income was permitted to turn from a cooperative to a company, but on the understanding that it would remain committed to this social mission. Yet barely 2 years later, the NTUC was prepared to approve this troubling deal. Even Professor Tommy Koh, the esteemed Professor Tommy Koh, came out in public against it. In August, the NTUC issued a statement supporting the deal. They said Income needed access to additional resources to fulfill its social mission. Yet, according to NTUC Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Desmond Tan, in his parliamentary statement on the 16th of October, the NTUC Central Committee was unaware of the capital extraction plan until the ministerial statement of 14 October. Let me ask you this. Is this what we deserve? Is this the leadership we want? The situation was so serious, we had to pass emergency legislation to block the deal. A deal that the NTUC publicly endorsed just 2 months before that. And despite their close relationship with the PAP.
And Tan Swee Chi, who was CEO of NTUC Income from 2007 to 2013 and then Group CEO at NTUC Enterprise from 2013 to 17, wrote an open letter to the voters of Jalan Kayu. Andre already said what's bad about the deal, so let's focus on Ng Chee Meng. In late July 2024, Tan wrote to Ng Chee Meng about his concerns, but there was no response and Ng Chee Meng didn't engage with any public concerns. Even between August and October, as serious questions were being raised, Ng Chee Meng remained silent. So Tan questions, is Ng Chee Meng aware of the capital extraction plan? As Secretary General of NTUC and a board member of NTUC Enterprise, what steps did he take to assure that Income would protect Income's long-term mission and financial resilience? Key strategic decisions may have been influenced heavily by the leadership of NTUC Enterprise. Should there have been greater scrutiny and independent judgment despite these disagreements? So then, point 2. Ng Chee Meng supported the deal after full and serious consideration. So how come some leaders say that they were unaware of key financial elements? Given the overlapping board memberships, were governance safeguards sufficiently robust? Would Ng Chee Meng support stronger structural independence and clearer lines of accountability? Why didn't Ng Chee Meng and other leaders not engage more openly with members and stakeholders who were deeply troubled by the transaction? Point 3. Would Ng Chee Meng have endorsed the transaction if the financial implications had been transparent from the start? Does Ng Chee Meng believe that leadership involves not only supporting proposals, but also accepting accountability and addressing legitimate public concerns when outcomes diverge from expectations? And now that Ng Chee Meng seeks the mandate of Jalan Kayu residents, will he provide a full explanation? Tan also clarifies that this is not about partisanship. They are about the responsibilities of leadership, the stewardship of public institutions, and the need for transparency when public trust is involved. Tan also thanked Lawrence Wong's government for having the wisdom and courage to stop the transaction. And before you ask, why you so biased now show Ng Chee Meng's answer? No ha, Ng Chee Meng's response to the media about the deal is really so short. Here's the clip.
Democracy.
Come up a different path?
We are a democracy. So, well, let's have a fair, respectful contest. We can have maybe disagreements of views, but we can still hold together as Singaporeans.
It's off our
of income faith.
We will learn the proper lessons out of this episode and see how we can do better. And as I explained to a previous media interview, I've started a review to see exactly what we can do so that we can put ourselves in a better state to answer the needs of the business, which are real, and also the public feedback.
Mr. Lau's cost of living
Got more than half a year to prepare, and this is all he said. Well, this is also just my opinion, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts for this GE, and Ng Chee Meng's appearances are the only ones I cannot stand to finish. I don't think I'm the only one. While there are comments who are supportive, most other comments point to how this feels like a paid advertisement or how sterile the discussion is. In another video, commenters also pointed out how fake Ng Chee Meng feels. But let's go to the more interesting Punggol, where there are last-minute changes, putting a DPM Gan Kim Yong-led team against a Workers' Party Harpreet Singh-led team. It's quite a shame because I think having both in Parliament would have been in the interest of Singapore, but because of the GRC system, Punggol has to pick one for us. Back in 2015, a gun-led team in Chua Chu Kang secured 76.89% of the votes against PPP, but in 2020, PAP only got 58.64% against the more credible alternative PSP. Harpreet Singh rallies are very forgettable so far, so we're watching how far credentials can go. On the other last-minute deployment, Chua Chu Kang GRC, PSP doesn't really look like a strong team, and their rallies also doesn't feel as strong. The result will probably be reflective of how unpopular Tan See Leng is, considering that in 2020, PAP only secured 57.76% in Marine Parade GRC, and boy, netizens really do not like his responses to the Cantonese incident. Some popular comments say they don't even want to spend the energy to watch this, and that Tan's behavior is giving verbose excuses. I also mentioned that this podcast episode, after listening to Ng Chee Meng for 2 minutes, is not unbearable at all. Yeah, anyway, Marymount SMC is another place where it feels like we're just putting the parties against each other. In 2020, PAP only got 55.04% of the votes. I should also mention that PSP's previous candidate in the SMC got suspended for over-prescribing medication to a patient who later died. Seems like a big deal, but not sure how big the news is. Sembawang SMC. We're going to see if Chee Soon Juan is finally not seen as crazy. And I mean, he wants Singaporeans to not be measured in the regimented way such as GDPs or exam scores, and to learn from Nordic countries to be happier and productive, among other things which honestly isn't crazy. Chee previously contested Bukit Batok SMC, getting 45.2% of the votes. But well, there is that man who must not be named Jerry absorbing Bukit Batok into a GRC. Well, obviously, one person can't contest in a GRC, and I was interested in what his opponent, Polisan, has to say. But that interview was also quite painful to listen to. Why these ex-military personnel always like this? So Will's text, and she said she is surprised that Chee shifted away and that they will do their best to have this fair competition. On whether she could sympathize with Chee, Poe pointed out that Chee still had agency over where to campaign. Strategically speaking, Poe had more time to connect with residents. Sembawang SMC is also specifically carved out from the GRC, so PAP is probably very confident of Poe's chances here. Tampines, interesting because of the four-way fight. Again, another product of the GRC system causing shuffling and a walkover in Marine Parade. The last four corner fight was back in 1992, and look at the results Mosquito parties got. But honestly, National Solidarity Party doesn't seem that unpopular. In 2020, they got 33.59% in Tampines. Go back to 2011 with Goh Meng Seng, and it's 42.78%. Though it's possibly the Mabautan factor rather than Goh. And nowadays, Masagos is apparently unpopular among younger Muslims because of the Tudong issue and Palestine. But I mean, Workers' Party's Faisal Manap chose to come here for a reason, right? Plus, Ong Lue Ping was IMH director, and Michael Teng has a master's from Harvard. Radin Mas, interesting because independent candidate Darrell Low decided to run, saying there are no credible opposition parties. Reading straight from this article, Mr. Kumar, who was Reform Party's treasurer, contested West Coast GRC in the 2011 general election. He was also a member of Singapore People's Party's Central Executive Committee before joining People's Alliance for Reform. RP had to apologize to Radin Mas voters in 2020 after Mr. Kumar did not turn up to record the constituency political broadcast. Despite this, RP got 25.99% of the votes. So, yeah, no credible opposition. I encourage you to at least watch Darrell's interviews as he seems sincere enough. He wants to encourage more full-time MPs, improve the MOE financial assistance scheme, increase drink driving penalties, and to allow singles to own public housing earlier. Seems like a solid enough starting platform. And for some reason, he's chosen not to receive donations. Hey, PAP's Melvin Yong is Assistant Secretary General in NTUC. I wonder how much involvement he had in that deal. Hey, this Desmond Chu sounds familiar. He's contesting in Tampines Changkat. Anyway, finally, we have Mountbatten SMC. Interesting also because of the independent candidate. Jeremy Tan has a Reddit account you can stalk, and in the previous thread, Redditors actually pointed out his platform and they laughed at him. Aside from the Bitcoin thing though, there are more things to his campaign, but I think the best thing to come from his and Darylow's candidacy is legitimizing more independents to put themselves forward. This election might not be big in the results. I mean, we already know PAP is still going to get parliamentary supermajority. The big thing is that we are going to get more credible alternative parties in the next election.